Heading to the live line, Pacific Legal Foundation is back. Attorney Allison Daniel will join me about a Missouri lawsuit targeting a rigged government tribunal. Now, I'm not even going to lie and say I don't even really know what that means. So I had to read through it to find out what's going on. I saw the North Dakota case where it's Peterson versus the U.S., and I think I might know that family, just saying, because I'm from North Dakota and there's only like 700,000 people there, so you know everybody. But Allison, welcome to the show. I want to talk about what happened in Missouri case and how it might correlate or relate to what happened in North Dakota. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Fawn.
You're welcome. So, what's a government rigged tribunal? What is that?
Sure. Yeah. So, in this case, and many other cases that involve the federal government and agency adjudication, the government is the investigator, the prosecutor, and the judge. So that's how it's a rigged tribunal. You don't ever get a fair, judicial process, and instead you're stuck in this agency process where you don't have any, for in this case, for instance, we're asking for a jury trial, and we don't get one.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard, and most of them are unelected people who just get to make decisions, right?
That's right.
That's the part that makes me mad.
Right. We are representing American Tripoli in this case, a small mining company in Seneca, and this actually arose from a personnel dispute. An employee filed a complaint for discrimination and retaliation with the Mine Safety and Health Agency, and what that did was trigger them to go into this internal adjudication where just the government, just this mine agency, and this review commission are the only ones looking at this case. So the company was really on their back foot from the beginning. And all we're asking for is that he be able to go to a real court for a real judge instead of this internal administrative system where the agency acts as the prosecutor and the judge.
Well, how did this get created? How did this become a thing?
Yeah, so in 1977, Congress passed the Mine Act, which is what we're stuck trying to get out of. They enacted it to protect miners' rights, like thinking of coal mines and other hazards that you would face as a miner there. Mm-hmm. So they adopted these provisions to create the Health and Safety Agency and then the Review Commission. And what that did was to create these administrative adjudications, right? So before this act was created, if there was a personnel dispute, wherever the mine was located, you could go to a state court and have a jury trial if you wanted it in state court. But now it's removed from that, and they have this process where you simply can't exercise your constitutional rights under the Seventh Amendment to have a jury trial.
So the company is just stuck having to pay fines? Or
Right. Through the process they went through, an administrative law judge ordered them to pay $40,000 in fines, and without basically any review. The owner of the company, Russell Tiedeback, he appealed to the commission, and the commission denied his appeal. So that's where we're stuck now. We filed our petition for review in the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals in order to basically overturn this whole process. We're arguing that it's structurally unsound and that he is we're raising a few claims, but ultimately we want this business owner and other individuals faced with similar civil penalties to be able to go into an Article III court and before a jury, because it's ultimately a fact dispute. It's a fired employee who said he was retaliated against and discriminated against because he talked to a mine inspector. And it's an employer who says, hey, this guy was on the job for 9 months and didn't perform well, and we wanted to get rid of him because he didn't listen to what his manager was telling him to do.
Right. So sour grapes always want to come back and say you did something you didn't do.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Boy, don't we all know a couple of those? Yes, we do. So if you're a family-owned small business, this could break you.
That's right. And the Tiedebecks, he's an Army veteran. He blue-collar worker his whole life. He reopened this mine, which was actually founded in 1869. He opened it in 2021 with his daughter. And they were just trying to revitalize the area. So, and this complaint was filed in 2023, 2 years into his operation. So $40,000 is a lot of money. And honestly, to tell you how crazy this process is, he represented himself through the everything leading up to the ultimate decision by the administrative law judge. So he filed all the motions, he filed all the orders, or the the briefing supporting the motions. So he couldn't hire an attorney, is what I'm saying. And in reality, he should be able to go before a real court and a real judge and get a fair decision.
Yeah, and even if this was a case where what happened and the employee is right, it's still, the process is stinky. It doesn't work right.
That's right. That's all we're asking for, and that's what our petition makes clear before the Eighth Circuit, that we just want a fair process. They have and also this evidence standard that's just completely unfair. So jury, due process, evidence, and something that doesn't undermine the separation of powers and the right to a neutral decision maker.
Well, because think about it. Is a tribunal really going to change the fine that they're the ones who levied against a company? Or do you really think they're going to undo that? No, they're going to stick to their guns.
Right, and that's what we've found in a lot of these agency adjudication cases, and why we're challenging them really all across the country, from our NOAA cases to the SEC, to the FCC, FTC,
Yeah.
You name it. We're trying to actually incorporate a due process in all of these entities.
To all the acronym people. All right, so up in North Dakota, it's Peterson versus the U.S., and there are a lot of multi-generational farms in Missouri as well as in North Dakota. And farming is hard. I know people think they buy tractors and, the machines do all the work, but that's not the case. And so they're up there fighting to enforce a conservation easement they signed in the 60s with Fish and Wildlife Service. And now the agency's trying to enforce restrictions on farming that weren't in the agreement. So now this family, Cody Peterson and his family, are having to fight to farm.
That's right.
That's stupid. It's stuff that's not even in the agreement.
Yeah, it is. It is a complete violation of the original agreement. So, we're representing him to ensure that the federal government keeps its word there and honors the conservation easement terms.
Depending on how big the area is, this could kill the whole farm.
Yeah, it's absurd, and they're doing that. They try to expand their control over private land, in a lot of these different cases. So it's we're kind of fighting back against this vague rule that they've adopted, because every time you look at these different agencies, it's really just mission creep, expanding federal control over land use.
Yeah. Well, and they did it with the American Waters Act. They did it with they do it with what's the word where they just take your land? Can't think of the word now. I had it.
Eminent domain.
Yeah. So, they use these fancy words and they say, well, we need it for this, we need it for that. We decided to build a highway that goes through your living room, all these sorts of things. You don't have to put up with that stuff. They have to give you some sort of equal value to what you're losing. But these people are just being told, screw you, you lose. And we're the jury, judge, and prosecutor and jailer. So you have to do everything we're saying you have to do, and you have no other way to retaliate or fight against them. So thank God Pacific Legal's out there to step up on this one.
Yeah, thanks. We're representing people for free all around the country for cases just like this. And what you just said is 100% true. They try to come in, make these rules, take your property, issue fines with no due process, and then they fight in court to say that you have no opportunity to go to court. Yeah. In the Tripoli case, for instance, the first thing that they filed was a motion to dismiss the case, saying that we had no opportunity to review because the commission didn't want to review it.
So it said, we said so. I said
That's
so.
right.
That's basically like your parents. Why can't I? Because I said so. That's basically what they did to you. So,
Precisely.
yeah. So where are we at with this? Is somebody listening to you? Is somebody going to take it further?
Right. Well, we just filed the brief last week, and we have to schedule the briefing probably in the fall, and then hopefully the Eighth Circuit will hear the argument. If we get an unfavorable decision, we'll go to the Supreme Court next. But hopefully we'll at least strike down these penalties imposed through that process, and then reaffirm the right of Americans to be judged by neutral and constitutionally appointed judges, not agency employees.
Yeah, and then if they lose, they lose. But at least they got their chance in court.
That's right.
You know, we have people who do heinous things to other people who are in and out of the court system in 2-3 days, depending on the prosecutor and the judge. And these people have done absolutely nothing wrong, and they're treated like they're criminals forever, and they lose everything they've ever worked for, and they don't even get a shot at keeping it. That's not fair.
It isn't. And people sometimes think that, businesses can support this, but ultimately it's these people's livelihoods. They've invested in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily have any other options. So it's just really a shame that it can be taken away so quickly with no real due process from the front end.
It's just crazy to me that it's in-house tribunal overseen by the agency who levied it in the first place. That's crazy.
Right, and another part of our argument is that the government used these administrative law judges who are not accountable to the president and can't be removed. And this is something that's going on with a different agency, the NLRB, for instance. So the point is that this is an executive officer. So the executive sets the priorities. And if the priorities are not to issue these penalties and adjudicate the act this way, the Mine Act, then they should be able to be removed.
Right.
But they're saying you can't even get rid of the officer that is doing something that you don't like.
Yeah, because they don't answer to anyone. It's weird. All right.
Right.
Where do people go to learn about what you're working on, Allison, and how they can help you?
Yeah, sure. Go to pacificlegal.org. We're a national nonprofit law firm. We fight the government when it violates your civil rights. We have 4 practice areas: property rights, free speech, separation of powers, and our newest is environmental environmental and natural resources. And if you have a case, then please go ahead and submit it on that site, pacificlegal.org.
Because you might get accepted, and they are going to have your back 100%. Pacific Legal Foundation attorney Allison Daniel. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.